You've just been in a car wreck and everything is a blur. You're hurt, your car's totaled, and you've got no clue what to do next, except you know that one wrong move could mess up the entire claim. Hi, I'm Ted Spaulding. I'm a personal injury attorney here in Georgia, and I've handled cases just like yours for over 20 years now. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact steps to take right after a crash so you protect not only your health, your rights, but your case from day one. That way you can avoid the biggest mistakes I see people make and put yourself in the best position to get the compensation you deserve. And stay with me to the end, because the biggest mistake is not crash. It's what you say early on when they're trying to be real polite, and it gives the insurance company an excuse to pay less. All right, so let's talk about step number one. So step number one is the easiest one. It's the most common. It's first, safety always. Check yourself, check the other people in your vehicle, and then check the other driver or drivers and make sure everyone is safe. If anyone's hurt, obviously you need to call 911. But I tell people you need to call 911 even if everyone, including yourself, is saying, I think I'm okay. Why? Because in Georgia, if there are injuries, certainly if there's a death, and more importantly, if there's $500 or more in property damage, which is darn near every single case, you are required to call the police to the scene. In real life, that is most crashes, folks. Again, 99.9% are going to fall into that range. But even beyond that, why would you not call the police? You do not know what's going to happen in the future. And that is an independent party that's out to figure out who's at fault and who is not. Now, if the vehicles can be moved without causing a hazard, you can move the vehicles to the shoulder. If otherwise you can leave them where they are, that's what I would do. If you can't, don't gamble. All right. Hazards are what they are. I would turn on your hazard lights to make sure that people can see your vehicle if you're going to be leaving it where it is in the roadway. Then you get off to the side of the road so you are safe until the police arrive. And one more thing people get wrong. Don't move someone who looks seriously injured unless there's immediate danger like a fire. You can move them at that point because you have no choice. Otherwise, please keep them where they are until EMS arrives so they can handle it. Once you've done that, your next job is to make sure that the scene gets documented, because documentation is what claims are built on. Get the right people and the right report. Well, when the officer arrives, you want to cooperate and be respectful to that investigating officer. You are not there to win your case on the side of the road. You're there to make sure that the basic facts get recorded correctly. And how you can get the crash report later and make a note of the officer's name and badge number. Now, in Georgia, they're going to give you most likely a card that is going to have that information on it and a case report number. You want to hold on to that. That is the case report that you then reach out to the department. Typically 3 to 7 days is the window. And if you're toward the weekend or a holiday season, it might be closer to that 7 days plus. It just kind of depends when the police report will be ready. And if the police do not come to the scene, don't assume that means it's no big deal. All right. You need the police to come to the scene. If they will not, you need to document everything. You want to really do this anyway, but more important when the police refuse to come to the scene. That's going to be a very, very rare situation. You want to make sure you take all the pictures and do all the right things. No report can turn into no proof of who's at fault. I've had numerous cases where they don't call the police. And then guess what? You get into a he said, she said about how did the wreck occur and who's at fault. You want the police out unless they refuse to come out. Now, while you're still at the scene, you're going to want to collect your own information, as I just mentioned earlier, because the report is helpful, but it is not the whole story. So again, report is helpful, having an investigating officer saying the other party's at fault, but there is other evidence things you need to document and document correctly to do it the right way. And that takes us to step number 3. And that's gather information like you're building your own file. Now, remember, you're not here to win your case right there on the side of the road, but you are there to document all of it. You don't know what is going to be missing later on. So what do I mean by this? Well, here's some of the things that you want to do if you're able to. You want to get the other driver's information. If the police officer doesn't already give that to you, you want to get their insurance information, their full name, contact, write down the make, model of their vehicle. You want to get witnesses. This is massively important. People mess this up all the time. Police officers, more often than not, do not put witnesses on police reports. I can't tell you how many times I have clients tell me, oh, there are witnesses. It should be on the police report. I get the police report and there's nothing on it. So you cannot rely on the investigating officer to get all of the contact information for every witness. So you want to get full names, phone number, email, and if they'll give it to you, their full address of every witness. Please do that. And if someone saw this and they're a witness to it, get a recorded statement while you're there with your phone saying, Ms. Smith, would you tell us what you saw happen? And record them. Ask them if they're okay doing that and record them right there on your phone. That is a statement right there at the scene as to what they saw. It can be used later in court if we can't find that witness. People move, people pass away, unfortunately. I've had several of those, especially around COVID, where we had witnesses and I've even talked to them, but I didn't get to the stage where I could do a deposition or anything, and then they passed away. They're not going to be there to testify for you now. So be very, very careful to get all of this information from these witnesses, plus their statement if you can. Now, beyond getting witness statements, we want to use your phone for other things. Photographs. You want to take wide shots. Okay, and then close-ups. So wide shots of the scene and then close-ups of the scene in certain circumstances so you can show lights or stop signs or where the cars are, any of those sorts of things. Same thing with damage to the vehicles. Wide shot of the entire vehicle or the entire back side or the side panel, and then closer up as you go. You want to walk all vehicles entirely, taking photographs right there at the scene. You want to grab weather and lighting if it's an issue, if it's foggy, if it's raining, if we have dark conditions, a dark roadway. You want to take a scene photograph, multiple of them, to show what the scene looked like at the time. And you want to be careful doing this. You want to get every angle that you can. Because a week from now or longer, memories fade. People forget what things look like. You're going to forget what the road conditions were and those sorts of things. So you want to take photographs of everything. Now, once you've done all of that, we now move on to the next step. And it feels small, but it has a huge impact in Georgia. And it's what you say. That's the next step. Step 4 is watch what you say, because Georgia is a fault state. So what do I mean? Well, Georgia is a fault-based state. That means that the person who caused the crash is the one who pays. And if the insurance company can shift even a part of the blame onto you, they'll try to do it. It's their job. And it means less compensation all the way down to zero compensation, depending on how much blame can be pushed onto you. So do not discuss fault at the scene. Do not argue. Do not negotiate. And here's the big one. Don't apologize. It is human nature, even when you're not at fault, to often apologize. I'm so sorry this happened and things like that, because maybe they're hurt too. And you are sorry this happened and it's not your fault. You're not saying that, but that could be taken out of context. God forbid that could be recorded by the at-fault party. So you do not want to do any sort of apologizing while you're at the scene. And I know that sounds harsh, but people say I'm sorry as a reflex. And then later it shows up as if you were admitting fault. So don't do it. When the police officer asks you what happened, be truthful and be simple. If you're not sure, say you're not sure. Don't guess. Please don't guess as to speeds, as to distances. If you're forced to guess by the question, tell them you're guessing. If I had to guess, I think they were going 30 miles an hour or something like that. A better answer to a lot of those specifics are things like, I don't know or I don't recall. Okay. Other things that sound safe and good to say are, I was driving straight. I had the green light. I didn't see the other car until impact. That is a big one. If you come out and say, oh, I saw them coming, well, now you can get blame shifted onto you. Well, you saw them coming. Why didn't you avoid them? Why didn't you wait to go from the stop sign if you saw them coming? Be careful. Be very, very careful. But those things are not enough, because now after the scene is handled, your next step is to take the step to protect your health and your claim at the same time. Step number 5, which is get medical attention, even if right there at the scene you feel fine. Adrenaline can mask your injuries. It does it all the time. You might feel fine at the scene. Hours later, or God forbid days later, it is going to rear its ugly head. Whiplash, concussions, back injuries, they often show up later. I've had cases where it has taken weeks for them to show up. So go get checked out as soon as you can, ideally the same day. If you go to the ER, urgent care, or your doctor, tell them clearly things like, this started after the car wreck, and list every symptom. You got to hit every area of your body, even if it feels minor. I can't tell you how many clients have one area that's really hurting, and this is pretty typical, really badly. And so they forget or just minimize the other areas like knee pain or ankle pain, or, get a really bad neck injury and it's hurting right after the wreck. Your back not feeling great, but you're so concerned about the neck that in that first visit, you forget to mention the back or don't think it's a big deal. You have got to mention every area that's hurting, even if it's very minor, because it will make it into the record. And if it's not there, guess what the first argument's going to be? Well, now, wait a minute. They went to the ER and they were complaining of neck pain only. They didn't say anything about their back or their knee or their shoulder. Now, weeks later, their back's hurting and they're following up and it's the neck and the back. Well, the back's not related because they weren't complaining about it right there on that first visit. Don't let them do this to you. Hit every area that is hurting you. And then this is the big one when it comes to the medical attention. You want to follow through with the medical care plan. What does that mean? Go to all your visits. Yes, things come up in life, but try not to miss visits. If you have a bunch of missing of visits and rescheduling and this and that, it's going to look like you don't care. It's harder to argue pain and suffering later when it doesn't show like you're really caring about your treatment. So don't miss a lot of appointments. And big thing, if the doctor recommends it, unless you have a religious reason or you're just very, very, very terrified of it, and it better be like you can't function terrified, do what the doctor recommends. Do the injections, do the physical therapy, and do it all the way through. Do not self-diagnose yourself. Oh, I'm better halfway through. I don't need to go to the rest of the physical therapy appointments. The doctor didn't tell you that. Go to the rest of the physical therapy appointments. Get the treatment you need. What I tell people is, you don't want to do any more or any less than is required. And it's the any less that is the scary part. You don't want to minimize your injuries and self-diagnose and quit treatment in the middle of it. Be very, very careful of that. Now, you've handled the scene. You've handled your health. Now comes the phone calls. And this is where a lot of claims can get quietly damaged, are in phone calls. So, step number 6. Tell your insurance company, but don't give away your case. So what I mean by this is you need to notify your insurance company after the crash happens. If you don't, it can later void your policy. So even though someone else is at fault, you still want to put your insurance on notice and early on. You want to give the basic facts, where, when, who, how, and that you're getting medical care. You don't need to go into massive detail on the medical care. You can tell them the areas of the body if they really ask, but you want to make it clear that this is what's hurting right now, and you don't know what it's going to look like going forward. But you don't also have to rush into detailed recorded statements with your own insurance company. Okay. And what I tell people is, look, you are required to do a recorded statement with your own insurance company. That too can void your policy if you don't do it. But if you're even partially thinking about hiring an attorney, I would wait until you make the decision whether you're hiring an attorney or not first, because the attorney really needs to be on that phone call with you, needs to prep you for it, and needs to be on the call when you give the recorded statement to your insurance company. Don't go it alone, because even your insurance company, their job is to reduce what you are paid. They are not your friend. They are not there to help you. They are there to minimize the claim as much as possible, pay out, and be done with it. So they're going to try to rush you into a recorded statement. You need to tell them, I'm not prepared to do a recorded statement. Yes, I will absolutely do one, but I am looking into hiring an attorney, and I would like to get through that process first so my attorney can be involved if I do end up hiring one. Tell them that to get them off your back about doing a recorded statement. And while you're doing all of this, you're buying yourself time on this recorded statement with your own insurance company. You can go ahead and start keeping records, not because you're trying to be dramatic, because proof is how you get paid. Step number 7, which is keep records, because that's what turns your story into a claim. Start a folder is what I tell people. Your claim folder, you can call it, or your rec folder. You want to put a copy of the police report in there. You want to put any medical bills and records that you get in the mail or that you get from your provider at a visit. Oftentimes they will give you directly, for instance, things like work excuses. Those, for some reason, oftentimes don't make it in the medical records that we get. So we need to get those directly from the client. Receipts for any prescriptions or therapy or anything you're paying out of pocket that you get, co-pays, everything else. Tow and rental paperwork, of course, you want to keep as well. Photos, videos you can put in there. Keep this in a folder on your computer as well. And any notes, okay? Anything that you got that you want to keep as a note. And this, I often tell people, keep a journal, okay? And this is where you can keep that journal. And the journal doesn't have to be every day, okay? It doesn't have to be every 2 days even, all right? When big things come up, real big problems that night sleeping, or the pain was really bad, particular things that were going on that you couldn't do. You know, someone called and asked you to go do something and you couldn't do it because you were still laying in bed or your back was hurting or something like that. You have to recall these things oftentimes years later. That note can help you remember how you were feeling in the first couple of weeks or months of the wreck. It's really hard for folks to remember, even when you're very, very seriously injured. And these little things can be forgotten. This is the story of your case. Pain and suffering is the biggest component of your case. If you can't talk with detail of, oh yeah, I was sleeping in a recliner for X amount of weeks. You knew you slept in a recliner, but you couldn't remember how long. You need to remember how long, because there's a big difference between I had to sleep in a recliner in my living room for 2 days and having to do it for 2 weeks or even longer. You're not going to remember that if you haven't written it all down. These details become the story of your case. Now, let's talk about the last step. If you're injured, the smartest move is usually getting guidance early on before the insurance company controls the pace of your claim. So step 8 is consider talking to a Georgia personal injury lawyer. And I know that sounds very, oh, of course, you're a Georgia personal injury lawyer. You're going to tell everyone to hire you. No, I'm not saying you need to hire a Georgia personal injury lawyer. Notice I said talk to one. Everyone should at least have an initial free consultation with a personal injury lawyer. Ask questions. Go through these steps and talk particulars of your particular case. Every case is a little bit different. Ask the questions, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, that sort of thing. What their thoughts are on things. Should you do this? The insurance companies are asking you to do Y. What's their opinion? This is really helpful, all right? Even a simple crash can turn into a fight when injuries are involved. You have to know this. So don't just assume you don't need to be doing this and at least get some guidance from an attorney, much less potentially hire them. Insurance companies are going to delay, deny, and minimize. Delay, deny, and minimize. That's what they do. Their job is not to help you. Not even your insurance company's job is to help you. A Georgia personal injury lawyer, if you do decide to hire them, have a lot of benefits for you. Simple benefits, like they can take over all the calls. They are your spokesperson to make sure that this is going the right way. That call with your insurance company where it has to be recorded, you have a lawyer there to prep you for it and to be beside you during that recorded statement. Lawyer can gather all the evidence, make sure it's all gathered correctly and preserved. There are specific Georgia laws on how you have to put someone on notice that has evidence, meaning the other party, or they can destroy it and you never get the chance to bring it up. Of course, negotiating and positioning your case correctly are big things lawyers can do in your case. Most firms work, really all firms, I haven't heard of a firm that doesn't, work on contingency fee, meaning there's no upfront costs, no retainers, you're not paying an hourly rate. It is all contingent on there being a recovery or you don't pay them anything, and then it's a percentage. So they only get paid if you get paid, and they do better when you do better. So everyone's aligned together to push this forward in the best way possible for you. And the last thing I'll say about contacting a Georgia personal injury lawyer is the earlier you get advice, the easier it is to avoid mistakes that can't be undone later. So please take that to heart. All right, quick recap of everything that we've gone over in this video. You want to make sure everyone is safe and call for help. You want to get the report handled the right way. This is the police investigation and report on that investigation. You want to gather all the appropriate information and take photographs and video. Watch what you say. Get medical attention quickly and follow the plan. Report the claim, but don't rush to do a recorded statement. Keep all records and consider talking to a Georgia personal injury attorney, especially if you're unsure of what to do. Now, if you've made it this far, you're already ahead of most people. But there's one thing you definitely need to know. This is very, very important. Trust me, what you say can make or break your case. So, you'll want to watch my next video, how to answer an insurance adjuster's questions after a car accident. I'll see you over there.